is the potential of a false flag style 9/11 attack on the table?
Yeah, so we're already seeing hints of this. All right. So in the first day, Saudi Aramco, the major oil company of Saudi Arabia, said it was shutting down production because a drone had struck their facilities. And at first, everyone assumed it was Iranians who did this because the Iranians are engaging in economic warfare against the GCC. But then later reporting revealed that it was actually a drone from Lebanon. So it's not coming in from the east, it was coming in from the west. And so people suspect that it was an Israeli false flag to drag the Saudis into this war. Also, if a drone hits your oil facilities, that's an act of war, right? So why didn't the Saudis immediately declare war against Iran? We assume that the main reason is they didn't have concrete evidence that it was actually the Iranians who did it. Okay, so that's point one. Point two is that Tucker Carlson on a show said that he received information from the Qataris that they had arrested two Mossad agents who were trying to infiltrate and sabotage energy facilities in Qatar. And later on, Qatar actually came out and denied this. But I mean, Tucker Carlson has a lot of contacts. And if he's going to say this on TV, then I think there's some credibility in his reporting. Plus, it's also the Mossad MO, right, to do this. Then there was this drone from Iran that attacked the Azerbaijan, and the Azerbaijan president, huffed and puffed, and he said that he was going to send in ground forces. And then it was later revealed that it was probably another Mossad false flag. So the reality is that this is just how the Israelis do things. They don't like to fight wars themselves. They like to drag their allies into the war, right? And it's in the best interest, actually, of the Israelis to create a regional conflagration, because ultimately their purpose is the Greater Israel Project. And Naftali Bennett, who was the former Prime Minister of Israel, and who was expected to actually replace Netanyahu after Netanyahu leaves the world stage. He said his basically words were, Turkey is the new Iran. So what he's saying is that after we're done with Iran, we're going to go after Turkey, right? So the Greater Israel Project requires Israel to go after Saudi Arabia, occupy parts of Saudi Arabia, occupy parts of Turkey, and to occupy parts of Egypt. So why not destroy Saudi Arabia in this war to make life easier for yourself later on? Why not drag Turkey into this war to make it easier for yourself, right? So I mean, the game plan of the Israelis is very, very clear, and false flags are definitely their MO. It's only a question of like how serious will this false flag be. The most serious false flag that I think is coming up, which will shock the world, is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So as you may know, they closed down the Al-Aqsa Mosque these past few days. And for the past 2 years, they've been doing archaeological surveys, digging basically underneath the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So the great fear is that the Israelis are planning a 9/11 attack where, an Iranian missile streaks through Jerusalem, and then the Al-Aqsa Mosque is destroyed in a controlled demolition. And then the Israelis blame Iran for the destruction. In fact, if you go on YouTube, there's a very famous video where a preacher talks about this. This rabbi, he talks about this, where, wouldn't it be wonderful if during a war, an Iranian missile comes to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque, then we can build a third temple, and then the Arabs and the Persians would start to kill each other, and let those animals and cowards kill each other. What a wonderful thing, right? So I think that's a great fear. But look, there's also talk of maybe an aircraft carrier getting sunk. Right? The Abraham Lincoln is just in a sitting duck right now in the Persian Gulf. And if that were to happen, it would be a mass casualty event, and that would galvanize the American public. The American politicians have been talking about false flags in America and Europe for the longest time. We're like, oh my God, there are these Iranian sleeper cells in America and Europe, and we should be afraid. Okay, so I mean, they're just preparing the ground for a certain false flag. What it will be, we don't know, but we can expect a false flag at some point.